Two critical matchups for Florida State to win against Bama could decide if they really have a chance against the Crimson Tide.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. We are going to discuss several things today with the big game on August 30th at 3:30 in Doak Campbell Stadium. Florida State hosting the Alabama Crimson Tide, including whether or not the special teams for Florida State can make a difference. Sam Singleton's going to be a guy back there returning kicks. He had a touchdown last year. Could Florida State still be really good at kicker and punter? Possibly. But no matter what, Florida State has to use their key players, and everybody has to be involved to make up for some of the differences you can see with Alabama's offense compared to Florida State's. It's going to be a really key part of the game. We're also going to talk about the defense for Florida State. How are they going to utilize the newly installed Tony White defense? Is it really just going to be zone only? Or are they going to mix in man? How are they going to bracket Ryan Williams, and how much? Are they willing to go one-on-one with him? That's a really tough ask. But to start off, we're going to talk about some matchups, especially on the offensive side for Florida State. Let's talk about that right now. The first thing that I want to discuss is whether or not Gus Malzahn, this is part of the matchup here. It's not just player against player. It's coaching on both sides of the football. Gus Malzahn has a warp speed offense. And keep in mind, Tommy Castellanos was with him in Orlando when he first came out of high school, out of Georgia in Ware County. That is going to help him. He's been around this offense. So when he came to Florida State, it's the same thing that he learned when he was originally at UCF. Therefore, he's probably going to be on his game, understanding the tempo, all the checks, and everything needed. The question is Gus really ready? And I mean really ready to unleash that. If you're able to do it, especially in a game that's going to be super hot, middle of the afternoon kickoff in Tallahassee in late August, yeah, that's going to be blistering. With that being the case, here's the key. Florida State is in a scenario where they need to be able to go as fast as they want, when they want, and they need to be able to go and grind it out to a halt whenever they want. The little nuances, playing the play clock, making sure if your defense was just on the field for a long drive, like Bama can grind it out, you cannot go 3 and out. Cannot. You must be able to, even if you don't want to, give them some time to suck some air on the sideline. Get that oxygen. Go slower. Grit your teeth. Don't do it. Don't do it. Grit your teeth. Run the ball. Make sure you get at minimum 1 first down. Whatever your best 3 plays are to get a first down, do it. That warp speed is going to be used at some point, I think. But if they don't, they can still go up tempo. There's a difference. Trust me. Warp speed is like as soon as the ball is centered, it's height. Malzahn has done that in the past. With Tommy, that's probably going to be part of it. And this is where it gets interesting. Alabama's secondary is loaded. Loaded. Talking to people and just reading the tea leaves of their depth chart. I scouted some of these guys. All of them are 4- and 5-star players for the most part. All of them. And they have several guys back that played. They have a transfer or two that has played. They will not struggle in that regard. So you need advantages schematically. The matchup here that I'm most curious about is the obvious. How do you get Deuce Robinson in the best situation? There is no quote-unquote mismatch. Bama's secondary is good, but they still don't have a 6'5", 6'6" DB. Nobody does that is ready to take somebody like Deuce on in a bump-and-run type of situation. My only question is, and Bama's defense is very multiple, much like Florida State's, how much will they bracket Deuce? And how much will they just shade him, try to give as much help to whoever's over the top of him? Because if they really sink their teeth into taking him out of the game, that opens up opportunities for the other matchup that I think is pivotal. the one that Florida State has to win above all else. Something I haven't really talked about that much. Everybody knows Deuce has got to make some big plays for Florida State to have a chance. I'm throwing that to the side because that's low-hanging fruit. But Randy Pittman and Landon Thomas, assuming he's healthy, he just got back this past weekend from being banged up. Those two guys, your H-back / tight end and your traditional tight end, both those guys need to win. Both of them, not one or the other, both of them against safeties and linebackers. And I don't care if it's Quay Russaw dropping into the flat. He's probably their best pure edge rusher, pass rusher. He might drop into the flat once in a while. If you get him, I don't care which guy it is. It doesn't have to be Randy Pittman or doesn't have to be any of the tight ends or right back. Whoever it is, you got to win those battles. But also like Walson, he's a really good linebacker, fifth-year senior for Alabama. He's still not the same against the pass as he is against the run. If you get him on a seam route and Tommy puts it on you, you've got to win that battle. You've got to give him a window. You're not going to go 12, 15 play drives against Bama's defense over and over. You're not. They're too good. You have to hit shot plays, and you've got to hit the middle of the field. Tommy can't just play to the perimeter all the time, and you eliminate 75% of the field, and again, expect to beat Bama. You have to be able to use the middle of the field. I'm saying it now. I'm going to say it pretty much every day between now and kickoff. Alabama has to be beaten in the middle of the field, and the Noles have to use their tight ends, and we'll get into the running backs in a second to do that. So the key matchup for the offense to me is whichever player or players, if they're bracketing and using zone, that Florida State can get Pittman and Thomas in the middle of the field. If, you can run some out routes and all that too, but middle of the field, Florida State doesn't take advantage of that in the passing game, it's going to be really hard to move the football. Second thing, I talked about him all the time. I'm not going to stop now. And to be honest, quite a few of the coaches have talked about him recently at press conferences. Norvell, JP, etc. Jaylen Lucas, you have to find a way to get him the ball so he can make creative plays. Not many guys are going to tackle him one-on-one. And further, you have to be able to use him as eye candy. That's something that Malzahn's done for years. I expect it to do very, very well, whether it's unusual formations, lining him up in Wildcat, lining him up in a stack formation, using him on jet sweeps and faking the ball, going speed option the other way. There's a million ways you could use Jaylen Lucas. I have no idea what Gus will do. He's one of the most creative play callers in college football when he's got gadget players like that. So this is right up Gus Malzahn's alley. But if he's going to find a game to really get Lucas in space in one-on-ones, and anytime you're a running back or a slot, your number one job is to be +1. What does that mean? +1 is the free safety or whoever you want to say is the last guy on defense. That player is +1 because the quarterback doesn't block anybody. Nobody's covering him. So the defense always has an extra defender. The guy with the ball has got to beat the +1, the free safety or whoever it is. Jaylen Lucas is about as good at doing that as any player in college football. He was an All-American return guy at Indiana before transferring to Florida State. I expect him to have at least one big play. But can they get him to 2, maybe 3, where he hits a 15, 20-yard play on a jet sweep, a screen, or anything else like that? So again, matchups. Landon Thomas, Randy Pittman, and to a certain degree, Jaylen Lucas. I expect Bama to play a combination of zone, man. They might even use some match. They're going to be a very complex defense, so I'm not going to guess which DBs are going to be all over them. Xavier Brown and a bunch of different guys can play. I think we just got to see how they line up because they got several new players on both sides of the ball. And just as a point of emphasis, I'm going to talk about this in a little bit. They've got 10+ guys that are transfers that are starters. It's more than they've ever had. So we'll see what happens with them. A few of them are holdovers from last year, but still, this isn't just a Bama-built team from the high school ranks, so you can hit big plays. When we come back, we're going to talk about the defensive side of the ball in a really tough matchup for the Florida State Seminoles. If they do not at least mitigate Ryan Williams, there's really no chance to beat Alabama. Today's show was brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one financial tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or in your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. With Monarch Money, it makes it easy for you and your significant other to view all your finances in one place, making it convenient to help yourselves, your kids, and your grandchildren. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. This show is brought to you by OpenPhone. If you're running a business, every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you needed a service. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. You moved on. That's why you need OpenPhone, so you never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. It even has an AI agent that handles after-hour calls, answers questions, and captures leads, so you'll never miss a customer again. See why over 60,000 businesses trust OpenPhone. They're offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnCollege. That's openphone.com/LockedOnCollege. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free. OpenPhone. No missed calls, no missed customers. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Truly appreciate you stopping in to get all your latest Noles information. We're going to have a lot of fun between now and game day. Florida State and Alabama. It is less than 2 weeks from game time, and there's a lot to discuss. So please hit that like, hit that subscribe, and become an everydayer here on Locked On Seminoles. Let's talk about the Florida State defense and the biggest concern that's taking on Ryan Williams. But to do that, you got to stop the run. For those of you on YouTube, if you're looking at the side screen, how do you stop the run for the Alabama Crimson Tide? They got Kadyn Proctor at left tackle, 6'7", 366 pounds, a reported weight, but he's a massive young man. They have a big offensive line. Wilkin Formby, the right tackle, he's over 300 pounds, like 6'8". They're going to be a formidable force, but Florida State has a very good front seven in terms of experience. They're loaded with juniors, seniors, fifth-year seniors, and they got a lot of athleticism. They got a lot of size. So will Florida State, this is just my question, and I don't know what Tony White's going to do. I've studied him a little bit, but I need to see what he's going to do with Florida State's personnel before I get too jaded in one direction or the other. Is he really going to commit to the box, leaving guys like Jeremy Bernard, Isaiah Horton, and of course, Ryan Williams one-on-one quite a bit? You're still one-on-one, even if you're in zone, if you're bringing your safeties down. Those safeties can't help that much on deep routes, especially. So again, will Florida State commit to the run game for Alabama first? They do have a newbie at quarterback, albeit a redshirt junior. I mean, he's been around the block. Ty Simpson's still not a proven player. So are you going to roll the dice, try to shore up your run defense by bringing a guy down or not? I think they will, especially early, but they will use some gimmicks. And this is what I mean by that. This is part of the scheme in football. Bring a guy down early, show him definitively to get Alabama into a call, and then check. And vice versa. They've got to play cat and mouse. Just to give you an example, Iowa just runs cover two pretty much on every play, has for 20 years. They're so good at it, they don't care if you know what it is. They tackle as well or better than anybody. It just is what it is. But they're not going against Ryan Williams. And when they go against teams like Ohio State, they usually struggle. They used to play in the Big Ten West. There's not as much speed. Can you run that against schools like Bama, Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame that got speed? Probably not. That's why you got to mix it up. And Florida State, I think, will do a lot of that. They'll run a little bit of man. They might play some man underneath too high. They might run cover three on the next play. They might come out in man, see something they don't like, check the cover three. They're going to do a lot of different things to try to make Ty Simpson uncomfortable. But in conjunction with that, they're going to try to crowd the box or at least have a guy going back and forth, like literally between the snap and the ball being centered again. As soon as Florida State's play, they're going to try to make him uncomfortable with where pressure is coming from. There is no way in the world, this is one thing I'm certain of, no way in the world they're going to play it straight up against Alabama without a lot of moving parts before the snap of the football. None. And that leads to the obvious. How do you primarily cover Ryan Williams? Let me be very clear. I had some people push back on me a couple of weeks ago when I said in a live show that Florida State would be foolish to just consistently cover Ryan Williams with one guy, man coverage. I'm not kidding. There's nobody going to consistently cover him one-on-one. Nobody. He is a 10-3 or less guy, and he is as twitchy as it gets. He will be a 10-year NFL player. They have to find ways to mix it up. Now, the advantage is the quarterback still got to get him the ball. But I'm not worried about him on slants and all that because Florida State's athletic. They'll rally to the ball. What I'm more worried about are stop and goes, double moves, and anything where he has somebody in front of him if they run him in stack, because he's not a very strong guy. That's the one thing. Like, I've had that conversation with Ryan before. He said flat out, if you don't get your hands on me, nobody can really run with me. Again, he was 10-3 as a sophomore in high school. He's only going to get faster. So we've got to see what Florida State does with that matchup. And here's one example that I want to use. Ryan will probably match up with several different DBs for Florida State because they're going to move him. A player that's gained a ton of praise from the Florida State staff during fall camp and the press conferences, and he's earned it, is Earl Little Jr. He went with Norvell to ACC Media Days. Good sign, by the way. He's a redshirt junior. Ironically, at one point, he played at the University of Alabama. So this game's going to mean something to him. It's not by coincidence that I'm bringing him up here. When he's in the slot, talking about Ryan Williams, going against Earl, I think that's where he'll play. They may move him around. They may do some different things with him. But I'm just projecting here. When he's in the slot, I'm curious to see how much a veteran like Earl, who's over 6 foot, is close to 200 pounds, how he is going to be able to manipulate his hands and his feet to keep Ryan in conjunction in a band. Like, what I mean by that is between the linebacker and him for the first 5 or so yards. Before they get to the safety, how far does he go back? Making it so he's bracketed in a band, like in a space. He never has a complete two-way go. That's ideal. But they're going to do some different things to keep him from worrying about that. They're going to run him behind players, let him catch the ball on screens. You just got to rally then. Once Ryan gets the ball, Earl Little or anybody else, you must get to the football. You must be smart. You must tackle through the ball carrier. No arm tackles. No assuming. You've got to take on bigger guys and blocks. You've got to do your job. Do your job. Well, Ryan Williams will take a 3-yard screen pass and turn it into an 83-yard touchdown. That is the key. And then again, just can't let him get deep. If he gets 80 yards on 7 or 8 catches, it is what it is. No home run plays for Ryan Williams. If nothing else from this part of the show that you took from it, how many plays does he get where he catches the football when the ball actually hits Ryan Williams' hands, that it's 20 or more yards from the original line of scrimmage before he touches it? Nothing down the field. If that happens, Florida State's in a lot of trouble. You must make Ty Simpson, again, a very inexperienced quarterback, earn his way down the field. If they beat you that way, it is what it is. You got to pressure the box, make him feel uncomfortable with the looks, and then post-snap, you got to make Ryan Williams feel a little bit uncomfortable as well. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Florida State with one other thing here. This is where I think it's fun. I mentioned Kadyn Proctor earlier, but I also want to talk about the ability to mix it up. The depth for Florida State. We're going to talk about a little bit with the special teams, who plays and why. These little nuances with hidden yardage, they are massive if you are going to win a major college football game against Bama. If you don't get those, it's going to be very difficult. So let's talk about that next here on Locked on Seminoles. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. So whether you're getting your eye on the big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in the game. If you're looking at an opportunity with the NFL this season, how about a prediction for Joe Burrow to win NFL MVP? And if you want to go outside the box, perhaps you're going to go with Saquon Barkley, arguably the best running back in the National Football League. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Locked On College to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5. Prize Picks. Run your game. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who look for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling for your MVP, eyeing a bold shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champion before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race, maybe, or perhaps you've got somebody you really think is going to win it. For me, it's Joe Burrow. Maybe for you, it's Saquon Barkley. Whoever it is, FanDuel lets you make your decision. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because FanDuel Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. All right, let's talk about the most important thing that nobody else is talking about. And I've waited a while to bring this up, and it finally came up when JP took to the podium the other day. Special teams. The hidden yards, especially in game one. I said this last year. Going into the Georgia Tech game, and every year I'm going to talk about this. Florida State needs to win in special teams for a multitude of reasons. Number one, historically, this is an area where Florida State's really good. Bobby Bowden was tremendous at finding the right return guys, at finding the right punter, finding the right guy to be the snapper, whatever it is. And then, of course, the play calling with trick plays. So you like the history to be there. But when you're playing a team with even more talent than you, hidden yards, your punter's got to be good. I'm not even going to say the punter or kicker's names. I heard good things from JP, Norvell, etc. They've been pretty happy, but I'm not jinxing anything. I don't trust kickers and punters, so I'm not going to say any names. With that being said, they can't have any shanks. They can't have any, like a 37-yard field goal needs to be money. That's just the way it is. If you drive the field, you don't score. That's unfortunate. You must gain points. Secondarily, this is the one that I'm most excited about because I really don't know how it'll be. How many of the key players for the defense and the offense will be starting for the Noles on special teams? Now, Bowden played a bunch of them. To a certain degree, Jimbo did as well. Will Florida State go all in? They're not the deepest team in the country here, let's be honest. Will they go all in, especially with their front seven defensive players and their linemen on a really hot, muggy day in Tallahassee? It's risky. I guarantee you there's going to be a ton of guys. This is just young people problem. You can tell them a million times, they better overhydrate. They're not going to do it. There's going to be guys cramping all over the place. We see it every year in college football, especially, again, the Florida game, the Miami game, the Florida State game. And I don't know if Houston has a home game, but they're in a stadium. Like any of the games that are like Texas, Louisiana, Florida, Mississippi, any of these kids cramping, don't be surprised. Florida State, Alabama, 3:30 kickoff, that's going to be part of it. So how many of the key players for the Noles on offense, and especially that front seven of the defense, guys that can tackle, will be out there? That's a question I have, and I have no idea what they're going to do with it. Secondarily, on that point, I'm not worried about the skill guys for Florida State. They've got a gazillion DBs and receivers that can run. There is no excuse to have a problem with the gunners or anything on the edges, whether it's punt block, whether it's you've got somebody out there that's playing the corner spot against the gunner to slow them down. They've got tons of, like Kai Bates. It's perfect for that. He's 6'2", 205, 210 pounds. Maybe he's that guy. And then you've got return guys all over the place. Sam Singleton had a touchdown. Maybe Jaylen Lucas is a kickoff guy with it. If Florida State doesn't have at least one really good return, I'm not saying score, but a 35, 40-yard return, whether it's punt or kickoff, I will personally be very disappointed. They got too many skill guys that can do this for there not to be. The only way that I see that not being something is if this, I guess, is technically possible, although unlikely, Bama consistently kicks it out of bounds or directionally kicks. with all the rugby style kicking, it's possible. But if there's a player like Sam, or maybe it's Jaylen, I don't know who it will be. If they get one hop up to them and they've got a few yards, remember what I said earlier in the show? +1, if you're a running back, a slot guy, there's always a defender that's unblocked. You've got to be +1, meaning you beat their guy. And the first player that comes to you, you've got to beat them by yourself. Punt returner especially, that's the deal. Florida State needs those hidden yards. The difference between starting at your 22 and your 34 may not sound like a lot to you. But I guarantee you it means a lot to those offensive linemen battling Alabama's front seven, to all those receivers, especially those young guys against a lot of talent in Alabama secondary, and even to Tommy. He may be a fourth-year college player, but this is Alabama's defense. They're going to bring a lot of different looks. Like 12 yards here or there is massive. Florida State must win the special teams battle. If they do not, they will really struggle to win this game. You're not going to go 75-80 over and over and over again against Alabama, especially when you've installed an offense. You're probably going to have penalties in the first game. Bama will too. And you're probably going to have some miscommunications. You need those hidden yards on the backside with the special teams. And again, there's no reason to think Florida State shouldn't get it. If there's any category that you're going to pick Florida State to win in this game, it's special teams. The return game for the Noles should be really good. I don't know if Ryan Williams is going to return punts and kicks for Bama. I really don't. But let me give some advice for Norvell or anybody else that I'm sure they know. If your kicker, your punter, anybody, kicks a line drive to Ryan Williams, they should have a discussion with him about whether or not they want to play college football anymore. Do you want a scholarship, son? If you do that ever again, you're not going to have one. Like that kind of conversation. Hell no. That's the other final point here. Ryan Williams cannot be the reason you lose this game. Kick it away from him, kick it out of bounds, pooch punt it, kick it 1,000,000 feet in the air. Ryan Williams gets one line drive, you can probably strike up the band. He is electric. Maybe the most electric guy in college football, sideways, speed, all of it. It's either him or Jeremiah Love. Take your pick. I do not want to see Florida State give any chances for Williams to take one to the house, especially in special teams. That is a wasted chance. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles. We're going to have more Alabama and Florida State talk all the way through until the game. We will see you again tomorrow.